Let me begin straight away without much ado with the key question of our age. We live in a time of great developmental challenges with the SDGs deadline approaching, with the pandemic and the supply chains constriction having posed new challenges of different order, with a resource crunch, but with one game changer in the form of technology. What has this entire mix meant for governance, for smart delivery, and for development, both in Africa and in Asia, in India, and in Rwanda? So let me begin with you, Mr. Bharat Lal. Over the past decade, India has made very impressive strides in delivery of public goods and services, whether it's drinking water to every rural household, a project you've been involved in and masterminded, whether it's the COVID vaccination project, whether it's building toilets across India, LPG or gas connections, changing kitchens and removing the need for coal-fired or wood-fired stoves, and of course, affordable housing across the landscape of India. These are just a few examples. The infrastructure at the bottom of the pyramid has really improved in these past 7 or 8 years in India. Now, obviously, some of this is simply a fact of more money being available, India having acquired a certain economic significance, and it simply has more money to spend. But this is not just a matter of capital and resources. It's also a question of putting in shape a governance system that delivers. What are the governance lessons we've learned from India's experience, and to what degree are they replicable in other countries, other similarly placed geographies? Mr. Lal, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Malik, and good morning, everyone. And my co-panelist, Dr. Kaitesi, sir, thank you very much for having me here. And I'm really sorry that I couldn't come personally. I was very keen, but just couldn't manage, Straight coming to what Mr. Ashok Malik has asked, let me put this way, that first see the context, that this pandemic, whole worldwide, I think the scale was unprecedented, and there was a fear of unknown. Well, very little information, whether it's a scientist or doctors or labs or governments, So I think we were groping in the dark. And development can't stop, lives can't stop, livelihood cannot, stop. So I think in this kind of scenario, India tried to work out, its own path. And if I have to point out few important things. I think the first thing is leadership. I think in modern world, there is a need for a focused leadership, that we want to improve the quality of life of people, And when we have this focus, it means you have to work on public policy, citizen-centric public policy. You have to work on, governance, good governance. You have to ensure for public service delivery and transparency. The second very important aspect in our case has been that people's participation, mobilization of people, whether it's a general public on the ground, or bureaucrats, or technocrats, or scientists, or policymakers. So I think you have to mobilize people basically in the country. The political leadership has to mobilize, that people must feel that you are basically, you are going to contribute something very substantial, The third thing which we have seen observed, that digital physical infrastructure, I think this has played a very key role, because if you have a data country like ours in 1.4 billion population, if you know who has house or who doesn't have, who have clean drinking water supply, who doesn't have, who have, toilet or electricity, So it means digital infrastructure and accurate information. I think that has played a very, very good role. And we deployed and used technology basically in planning and implementation and fund transfer or in for execution. I think that helps a lot. Fourthly, has been post-pandemic. One thing we have to see, that I think every country has to plan in a very big way. I think we have to get the economy out of scale with the speed and scale. People can't wait actually for eternity to these basic services. It means to deliver those kind of infrastructure or services, you need capacity building and training, as well as empowerment of civil servant or political leadership down the level. So I think these are the factors which contributed. And as you all know, that our Prime Minister, Honorable Mr. Narendra Modi, I think he focused on this system-centric governance, and we have been able to, what Mr. Malik pointed out, that take drinking water, at the start of in 2019, out of 194 million household, means 1 billion population, only 32 million household had clean tap water supply. Today, 122 million household out of 194 million, 63% household in roughly 41 months have clean tap water supply. Similarly, toilets have been 110 million toilets actually in the country. Take bank accounts. 400 million. 400 million bank accounts have been opened. Similarly, loan. So I think 400 million people have been given loan actually. 800 million people are giving food. Every month they are being provided food, post-COVID. So I think if you have this intent, you have wherewithal to deliver, and you have been able to inspire people to deliver that, and you have digital infrastructure, I think, in my opinion, daily is done. And you can deliver this, what all about one governance.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. Ms. Kaitesi, I'll take the point of digital public infrastructure, which Mr. Lal made, which is something we in India are very proud of. You in Rwanda are also very proud of, because countries such as Rwanda and India, which have embarked on the developmental journey after the global north, have the advantage of technology, which can be a force multiplier, which can help us reach hard to access populations. And Rwanda has been a success story here in the way it's used digital tools as well as data. Could you tell us something about how that has helped Rwanda in achieving its developmental goals?
Well, thank you very much. I think I would agree with my colleague from India. Leadership is at the center. You cannot just leapfrog to the use of technology just because COVID hit you. You must have established initially the infrastructure that is needed in that regard. You must have the policy right and correct, but you must have a leadership that is fast in terms of adjustment, in terms of transformation, in terms of coordination. So I should start by saying that Rwanda's strategic choices include thinking big and holding ourselves together and being accountable. So when we entered into the digital opportunities as a country, it's because the digital infrastructures that we are putting in place, we are helping us moving to that direction. We already, before COVID, had installed systems, including a lot of public services being received online. We had an ambition as one of our strategic direction of moving to a cashless economy. The introduction of e-commerce was just at the beginning, but I think COVID-19 was a wake-up call on how fast we needed those infrastructures. So it was also easier to adjust instead of waiting for the digital economy, for the cashless economy to mature in 2024. It actually matured in less than 2 years because we had lockdowns and e-commerce platforms got up. If you get on the bike in Kigali, you use electronic payment. If you get in the bus, you use electronic payment. And the reason was we were also looking at how we survive better during COVID. If you move and have cash transaction, the risk gets high. But at even a greater level, I should say, you are only, the power of a coordinated effort is a reflection. And I will give an example of a structure that we have at a district level called the Joint Action Development Forum, JAF. The Joint Action Development Forum is a forum that brings together all actors in a district. It means government institutions, it means NGOs, it means the private sector, it means the faith sector, it means also local government. And the coordination that happens in that allows us to deliver on our transparency and efficiency. Because by that, a coordinated structure exists. So we had a when we entered into COVID, we created about 3 main platforms. The tracking of those that are infected by COVID online, online records for those who were being vaccinated, but also we created an online platform for coordinating support. So if we are going to give, because of lockdown, some people were not able to do their day-to-day jobs, and those needed food. And through those structures, we were able to know who needs food, where they are, and who is easier to get to them. So I should say that, and I like the previous panel, somebody said, digital is as dangerous as we make it, I guess. You know, we do not fear the digital infrastructure. I think we are fearing ourselves, but reflecting it in a different way. So governance really is at the center on how we embrace the digital infrastructure. It's a groundbreaker in areas, for example, as we deal with corruption and zero tolerance to corruption. Our recruitment system is now entirely online. Public recruitment system is entirely online. And you cannot, by any standard, manipulate that. Our procurement system is online. We are using e-procurement to be sure that the tender process is free of face-to-face contact as much as we can. So we know that in pursuit of accountability, in pursuit of efficiency, the digital infrastructure is a groundbreaker. Now, I should say that in reality, challenges still exist. The digital literacy is still quite low. But I have realized actually that even those that did not have formal education can easily learn the digital language than going through the normal language processes in a way. So there is also an opportunity that when we build the right capacity in a context, Kinyarwanda now is one of the languages that is on Google being translated and being used. The opportunity that you also integrate the local languages in these infrastructures is also a groundbreaker. So main elements for me, it is the leadership and the transformational character of the leadership. It is the citizen-centric nature. You must be sure that the biggest reason you are integrating these processes is for the end user to make it easier, to make it better, and to make it possible. And it is the partnerships and the coordination that you do around it. Those in the civil society have great ideas. Those in the academic have amazing ideas. But only until we sit down and we make the best use of everyone, then we might even find ourselves conflicting over things that we are supposed to be agreeing upon. So the choice that in pursuit of our togetherness as a country, we do that. And lastly, when we chose to think big, you know, we can easily complain about being left behind, but sometimes we still stay behind as we complain. So it's important that as we deal with challenges of the past, we jump on the present. We can only improve the present if we are on the table. You know, if we have voices in the digital structure, if we have voices in the global governance infrastructure, it's only when we are able to influence them. So also engagement on these topics, and it's what we are doing, is a very important element. Thank you.
This is absolutely fascinating, which each of the examples you gave, less cash or cashless or maybe less cash economy and payments, digital monitoring of welfare, procurement and recruitment online, all of these have parallels in India, and in a sense they validate the fact that what we did was on the right track because even you did it, and this is absolutely wonderful. Mr. Lal, I'd like to go back to a couple of words Ms. Kaitesi used. She used partnership, engagement, civil society. joint action forum, I think that was in the districts, which is coming together of government, of end user, citizen, and civil society. Where do you see in this new governance and developmental narrative, where do you see the role for the third sector? Because there is the government and the government official, there is the end user and the citizen, who must be the focus of all our efforts. But what about civil society, NGOs, local community, large philanthropic organizations, international, local? What is the role for these? Do you see an important role for them?
I have heard a lot about what work is being done in Rwanda, and today listening it is music, in fact, to my ears. And I must compliment Rwandan government and Dr. Tusi about the same. But insofar as the India is concerned, as you understand, that it's a very vibrant democracy, And here, since it started, going back to our freedom movement, which started, led by Mahatma Gandhi. See, people's mobilization and people's role have been very, very strong. That it has been the basic framework in any kind of governance, And I think in Indian democracy, it is such a vibrant democracy at different levels, starting at village level, or district level, or provincial level, or at the union level. People involvement, people's participation is a key. And we have a very, very vibrant, civil society sector, NGOs, whether it's academic institution, technological institution, and other, think tanks, and their involvement, is a key. Like today, you see that G20, India is having G20 presidency. I think more than what Indian department and government ministries are participating, it is the civil society and think tanks. They are basically, setting the agenda, having discussion, and developing, framework. Similarly, in governance, actually, when it comes to public service delivery, suppose drinking water has to be delivered to every household. It is expected that at the village level, there will be one NGO who is going to handhold, support, build their capacity, mobilize, and in this way, empowerment will be done. And with digital governance, with e-governance, I think transparency and accountability can be ensured. So role of civil society cannot be minimized. Similarly, we have got 650,000 plus villages, or 1.8 million habitation. Please appreciate that it is next to impossible to have one government official in each habitation or in each village. So it means it is a very cost effective, it is very transparent, and it is a very, I think it's a very good governance, personifies at that level if we are having NGOs and they are involved in mobilization, in capacity building, in service delivery. It also ensures check and balances in government. And government is always of the view that whether it comes to any kind of program, everywhere we'll find that there is a civil society element is involved, in our governance process, especially in service delivery. If you are ensuring, let's say, food distribution to 800 million people, more than roughly 200 million families. I think without involvement of civil society, it is next to impossible to carry out. Take behavioral change in case of sanitation and hygiene. As we all know that, one of the major reasons for, high IMR or diarrhea-induced, death is basically poor water and sanitation services. So if we don't involve civil society, I think we can't achieve the goal, and we can't achieve. And Government of India, as at our level, we are very much committed, and we are working with civil society in this country. Take ORF, they are our biggest partner in many activities here, in India. So civil society role is very, very, very important and very critical, in Indian system.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. I will now come up with a final question and request both my panelists to respond, after which we'll open it up for questions. So please have your questions ready. Governance models, developmental models, experiments that have worked in one country of the Global South are perhaps more easily replicable in many other countries of the Global South. So something that has worked in Rwanda can more easily be translated into something on the ground in Asia than a model from, let's say, the US or an OECD country. Something which has worked on the ground in India is perhaps more easily replicable in Africa, in an African country. How do we sharpen the developmental cooperation between our continents and our countries and within the Global South? I know that's a broad question, but any ideas? First to you and then to Mr. Lal.
Well, thank you very much. I think the first element is also the desire to collaborate. You know, if it's within your strategic intentions to collaborate, the world is easier for collaboration today. Unfortunately, we are not doing that, but we are having a lot of agreements. We have the SDGs that we all converge to. It's an agreement of us as nations, and we know the priorities that we want to deliver on as for the people and the great nations that we are. So that in itself is a strategic and ground leveling platform that we need to. And secondly, I think the best way of sharing and collaborating is one that is conscious of the other. The systems that we are here confronting with are systems that assumed that these standards works for all of us. And therefore, what matters really is for us to humbly say, we have learned these lessons. We are sharing these lessons, but these lessons will always work with a contextualization and ownership element. So I would say that the kind of diplomacy that we need is one that dialogues, that shares the experience, but also that is only possible under the ownership of those that want to replicate, and also under the contextualization of those. And I know we have a lot of things that we have contextualized and made a difference in our societies, and maybe that's the main approach way.
Mr. Lal, your thoughts, because your institution has been at the forefront of, in a sense, explaining India's public delivery capacity building and capacities to like-minded countries, and explaining innovations that have worked in India to other countries. How successful has that been?
Well, you have seen that, this country believes in what we call Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that whole word is one family. And our Prime Minister has made it is a philosophy of our foreign policy. So far as India is concerned, basically, and you must have seen that of late in the last couple of years, India has been heading many, multilateral institutions, starting from, let's say, SCO or G20. And if you see, India is basically taking a position where we are highlighting and we are trying to address the concern of developing countries and global south, A. And B, India believes in that whatever experiment we have carried out, whatever we have achieved, and whatever the processes or good governance practices or public policies which have worked, we would like to share with them. Take one example, Aadhaar, which is basically unique, digital number of every citizen of this country, and this has eliminated. I would use the word that that it has eliminated the leakages and corruption at all levels, because each and every penny public money is spent, I think it can be accounted for. So, and it goes to right individual with a direct benefit transfer or other benefits. So in case of healthcare, in case of, let's take, we have seen that, take vaccination process. So what India has a policy that it has international technical and economic cooperation program. And we try to reach out to every country in global south. And whatever lessons we have learned, whatever systems are there, we would like to share them. Whether it is our digital processes or let's say public policies or governance processes. And this institution which I am heading, National Center for Good Governance, it is basically responsible for public policy, governance, and public service delivery. And in this institution also organizes capacity building program for civil servants and technocrats of developing countries. And so far, roughly 3,500 civil servant and technocrats have been trained here, and of 15 countries. So India is always open. India is eager to extend based on the need of developing country, for a particular developing country, and we would like to work together and take it forward. And please kindly appreciate that in this kind of globalized world, where you need capital, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurial mindset, I think this exchange of idea and learning from each other, it holds the key for working with speed and scale. And we believe in that philosophy.
Mr. Lal, now I open it up to questions. We are running out of time. We only have a few seconds. So if I could get one or two quick questions. Okay, I'll ask you one question. I know you were in India a few months ago. what was the first thing you noticed in terms of the developmental and governance conversations you experienced in India with your interlocutors post-COVID? And how did you sort of see that in the context? Did you see commonalities immediately between Rwanda and India in terms of how they tackled the post-COVID situation?
Yes. Yes, I saw some commonalities on a few fronts. The few fronts that I saw, and I'll maybe concentrate on one of the fronts that is obvious. Of course, we all, even while India has a very strong health system, we all learned that our health system were overly challenged by the existing, by the pandemic. And that required a lot of innovation, a lot of citizen engagement if we are going to confront the innovation. But the use of digital technology in service provision, in engagement, and in accessibility was a common element of all the discussions that I went into. And of course, doing it for the citizens was also core.
Mr. Lal, my final question to you. It's often said that governments, especially in governments in countries such as ours, are very good in wartime. If there's a crisis, they put all resources to work and deliver. But in peacetime, they become complacent. The key challenge which an institution like yours faces is to ensure that public delivery and public officials remain as vigilant post-COVID as they were during COVID. What do you have to say about that?
No, Mr. Malik, I think you have pointed out, you have put your finger on the right problem. I think most of the places this situation occur. But let's understand that in modern democracies, when digital governance and telecom, social media, it has played such an important role. It is next to impossible for any government to sit idle and wait, for any crisis to come. One example I'll give. 30 years back in 1991, we have balance of payment crisis. So reform started at that moment. But in last 7 years or 9 years of this government, there was, except COVID-19, there was hardly any kind of crisis. But this government basically, because you have to satisfy and meet the aspirations of people, basically. Government is not sitting. Civil servant can't sit up. No. If you don't listen to people, people have the means to magnify their challenges and problem to the whole world, actually. So better you listen and not listen, better you set up a system where basically there is no need for them to go to public and, air their grievances. I think government of India in this thing, and Mr. Narendra Modi's government is working in this fashion, that don't sit, be proactive. I mean, today we have got a public grievance redressal system, centralized public grievance redressal system, where anybody and everybody can go and is in public domain. And every day we listen to that, in the evening we try to, monitor the system. So I think this public policy and governance has moved to a direction where people are government in democracy can't sit, and they have to constantly keep on evolving and working to solve the people's.
That's a very good way of putting it. If I could encapsulate that into one short phrase, to govern better, listen more. Thank you so much, Mr. Lal. Thank you so much, Ms. Kaitesi. I now hand you over to the organizers.